That night, I looked at my empty fridge and wondered why the butter, eggs, and meat I just bought had vanished. The next morning, my daughter-in-law posted a perfect brunch photo featuring the exact items I paid for. I didn't start a fight. I just opened her fridge and left a receipt she will remember forever. My name is Loretta Vaughan. I'm 58 years old, a widow, and I live in a small, tidy house in Briar Hollow, just outside Westbrook. It's a life I built, one receipt at a time, and I know the value of every dollar. That Tuesday, the first of the month, I'd done my big shop. I split the order in two, just like I always did. My cart. Their cart. I drove to my son Caleb's house, the one in the newer development with the identical beige roofs, carrying two heavy paper bags. The handles dug into my palms, and my left hand sent a familiar, sharp ache up my arm. It's been that way for years, ever since the carpal tunnel surgery I got from 2 decades of sorting invoices. The pain is a reminder of the work it took to raise him. I balanced one bag on my hip to ring the bell. Sloane answered, immaculate as always. She was wearing a cream-coloured knit set that probably cost more than my entire grocery run. Loretta, she said, her smile polite, but stopping well short of her eyes. You shouldn't have. Just a few things to help out with the start of the month, I said, hoisting the bags forward. I felt the strain in my wrist again. I know Caleb's been working long hours. That's so sweet. Sloane took the bags from me, her grip effortless. She didn't glance inside. She just moved to set them on the floor of her pristine, minimalist entryway, as if they were packages to be dealt with later. Contaminants. I'll put these away in a bit. Caleb's just about to jump on a call, so we're in a bit of a rush. But thank you for stopping by. She was already easing me back toward the door, a master of polite dismissal. I was in and out in under 60 seconds. No hug, no offer of water, no Caleb. Just the clean, cold scent of her expensive reed diffuser fading as the door clicked shut behind me. That evening, my own house felt too quiet. I went to the kitchen to make dinner and opened the refrigerator. The white light illuminated an almost empty shelf. There was half a carton of milk and a jar of pickles. That was it. I'd given them my bacon, my eggs, the good butter. The strawberry preserves I treated myself to once a month. I'd even given them the chicken breasts I'd planned for my own dinner for the next 3 nights. My stomach growled, a sharp, embarrassing pang of hunger. I closed the door, leaning against it for a moment. It's for family, I told myself, the old, familiar refrain. It's to make things easier for Caleb. I made toast with the last of the bread and ate it standing over the sink. Later, I sat on the sofa, scrolling through my phone to numb the faint ache in my stomach. And there it was. Sloane's new story. The photo was blindingly bright, shot from above in that clean aesthetic she was always talking about. Sunlight streamed onto a white marble board. On it was a perfectly composed brunch, thick-cut bacon, glistening and crisp, scrambled eggs, bright yellow and fluffy, a small dish of whipped butter, and a smear of dark red jam next to a croissant. The exact brand of bacon, the exact carton of organic, cage-free eggs I'd bought, the exact glass jar of strawberry preserves. Starting the day right, the caption read. I looked at the timestamp. 9:30 this morning. Maybe 2 hours after I had dropped everything off. My hands felt cold. I navigated to my text messages. My fingers were stiff as I typed. Hi, Sloane. Silly question. I just wanted to make sure you found everything in the grocery bags this morning. Just checking. I read it over, trying to sound casual, breezy. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. Loretta. Hey. So weird you ask. The bags felt a little light. Honestly. I'm pretty sure your shopper must have shorted the order. You know how those delivery services are. I'd definitely check your receipt if I were you. My heart didn't pound. It just turned to ice. I hadn't used a delivery service. I had walked the aisles myself. I had paid at the register. She knew that. I looked at the kitchen counter. The original receipt was still sitting there, a long white ribbon of paper. I picked it up. My eyes scanned the items. Bacon, thick cut, store brand, eggs, 1 dozen, organic, preserves, strawberry, glass jar, all there. I walked back to the kitchen, the phone heavy in my hand. I took a pen from the cup by the sink. I turned the receipt over and, in my neatest script, I wrote down the date and the exact time of Sloane's social media post. I folded the paper carefully, the flimsy proof hardening in my hand. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. Not yet. But I walked over to the small wooden shelf where I keep my bills and placed it there, right on top. It was the first one, the seed of a harvest I never wanted to plant. That receipt on the shelf was not an anomaly. I am a woman who understands inventory. For 35 years, I was the kitchen stock manager for the Rosebridge Unified School District. I knew, down to the last can, how many number 10 cans of green beans we had, where the pallets of rice were, and the exact moment our flour supply dipped below threshold. My entire career was built on making sure the numbers on the paper matched the reality on the shelves. Nothing went unaccounted for. Not on my watch. I'm supposed to be retired now, but retirement is a luxury I cannot fully afford. My pension from the district barely covers the mortgage on my small Briar Hollow house. So, I work part-time, 20 hours a week, doing the accounts for the Juniper Ridge Senior Center. My income is a fixed, brittle thing. I don't just keep receipts. I file them. I categorize them. It is not a quirk. It is the architecture of my survival. Caleb grew up watching me do this. He saw the ledger books spread on the kitchen table on Sunday nights. He watched me stretch one paycheck across 3 weeks, a magic trick of store brands and careful planning. He knew what it meant when I bought the generic cereal. It meant the lights stayed on. He was a good boy. My Caleb. He hated seeing me worry, and he always promised me, "Mum, when I make it, you're never going to have to look at a price tag again. I'm going to take care of you." And he meant it. Until he met Sloane. Sloane Mercer comes from a different world. A world where money is silent, assumed, and spent on making things look like they required no effort. To her, my meticulous budgeting was not a skill. It was an embarrassment. She is a disciple of luxury minimalism. Her house is a shrine of beige, white, and expensive, empty surfaces. She is allergic to anything that looks cheap, which, I have come to understand, includes the bright, loud packaging of the supermarkets I shop at. The brunch incident was not the first time my contributions had vanished. It was just the most blatant, months ago. I'd caught a 2-for-1 sale on cases of ramen noodles. Caleb used to live on them in college. I thought he'd appreciate the nostalgia. A quick lunch when he was working from home. I brought a case over. The next time I visited, it was gone. I asked Sloane, who was arranging a single, tragic-looking flower in a vase. She wrinkled her nose. Oh, that the sodium in those is just poison. Loretta, we're trying to eat clean. Another time, it was a large, practical plastic jug of vegetable oil. I'd noticed their empty pantry. When I came back the next week, the jug was gone. In its place, on the marble counter, sat a tiny, dark glass bottle of imported olive oil that probably cost $40. We just don't use non-organic, she'd explained, as if I were a child who had brought mud into the house. The plastics can leach toxins. I tried, gently, to mention it to Caleb. You two go through oil quickly, I said, testing the water. He just looked uncomfortable, glancing toward the living room where Sloane was. He gave my shoulder a squeeze. Mum, Sloane is just trying to keep us healthy. You know how she is. Besides, he added with a light, dismissive laugh that stung. You forget things sometimes. You probably left it in your car. You forget things. That was her word, coming from my son's mouth. Loretta Vaughan, who had managed the food supply for 12 different schools, was now just a confused, forgetful old woman. That was when I started. It wasn't a plan, not really. It was a reflex. It was the accountant in me needing to balance the books, needing to prove my own sanity. 2 weeks ago, I bought them a gallon of milk. Before I put it in the bag, I took a black permanent marker from my desk, on the curved bottom edge of the plastic jug, where no one would ever think to look. I wrote 3 small, neat things. L.V. Briar Hollow 27, Loretta Vaughan, my street, the date. When I visited the following weekend, the milk was not in their main refrigerator. I'd felt a small, cold knot tighten in my chest. While Sloane was in the bathroom, I'd slipped into the garage, and there, behind a stack of empty designer shopping bags, was my milk gallon, marked and accounted for, hidden away like contraband. It is a terrible, hollowing feeling to be erased. I wasn't just bringing groceries. I was bringing the only thing I had left to give my care, my time, my effort. I was trying to hold on to my place as a mother, and they were taking my gifts, stripping them of their cheap origins to fit their aesthetic, and hiding the evidence that I had ever been there at all. I was giving them sustenance, and in return, they were treating me like a ghost. They asked me to house sit, just for the day. The sofa delivery is coming. Loretta, Sloane had texted. And their window is just impossible. Between noon and 4, you're a lifesaver. I was retired, so my time, in her eyes, was free. I arrived at 10 in the morning, letting myself in with the key I still had. The house was silent and cold, sterile as a magazine layout, around noon. I got thirsty and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. I glanced at the pantry, the tall white cabinet where I used to stack the pasta and canned tomatoes I brought. There was a new, shiny brass hasp drilled into the doorframe. A small, silver padlock hung from it, locked tight. A lock on the pantry. I touched the cold metal. My first thought was, they've been robbed. My second, colder thought was, this lock isn't to keep strangers out. It's to keep me out. I felt a sudden, sharp need to see the garage. Caleb had mentioned something about a package, an excuse. I walked through the silent laundry room and opened the door. The garage was, like the house, obsessively tidy. And in the far corner, where the lawnmower should have been, sat a brand new, stark white chest freezer. No, it wasn't a freezer. It was a secondary refrigerator. It was draped with a thick, quilted white cloth, like a bespoke shroud. Sloane had mentioned this once at a family dinner, laughing. It's my prop fridge, for when I do collaborations and the main fridge is too messy for photos. My hand was shaking slightly as I lifted the corner of the cloth. The refrigerator was plugged in and humming. I pulled the handle. It was stocked full. Not with the sparse, aesthetically placed items of her main kitchen fridge, but crammed. And I recognized the packaging. My store-brand pasta. My 2-for-1 canned beans. The vegetable oil she claimed was toxic. And there, on the top shelf, was the tub of butter I had marked. I picked it up. The plastic was cold. I turned it over. My markings, LV Briar Hollow 27, were gone, scrubbed away with what looked like steel wool, leaving a rough, scarred patch on the plastic. But they had missed a spot. Just under the rim, a faint black curve of the L remained. I opened the lid. The butter inside wasn't the pale yellow of the store brand. It was a deep, rich, artisanal gold, clearly scooped from a more expensive, photo-friendly brand and transferred into my container. She hadn't even used my butter. She had just stolen the container to hide her own expensive brand, because the cheap label offended her. She was literally repackaging reality. My phone buzzed in my hand, making me jump. It was the family group chat. A new message from Sloane, sent to me, Caleb, and her own mother. Just a gentle reminder for everyone as we head into the holidays. Caleb and I are trying to pinpoint some food sensitivities. We think he might have an allergy to certain preservatives. Please don't bring any outside food to the house. We need to maintain a controlled environment, so grateful for your support. I looked at the locked pantry. I looked at the hidden refrigerator. A controlled environment. I didn't text back. I went home as soon as the delivery truck left. I tried to call Caleb. Hey, Mom? I'm in the middle of something. What's up? Caleb, I was at the house today. I saw the new lock on the pantry. There was a long, heavy sigh on his end. Oh, yeah. Look, Sloane's just getting organized. It's one of her New Year's resolution things. Don't worry about it. Caleb, she's locking up the food. Mum, please. Not now. I promise we'll talk. This weekend. I'll come by Saturday morning. Just us. Saturday morning came. At 8:30. My phone chimed. A text from Caleb. So swamped. Mum. Just got buried in a project. Have to take a rain check? Next week for sure. He never brought it up again. The final piece clicked into place by accident. I was walking through Briar Hollow when I ran into my neighbour, Ellie Monroe, walking her dog. Ellie is the neighbourhood historian. She knows everything about everyone. Loretta, she said, pulling her terrier back. I saw your daughter-in-law's pantry shop online. She has some lovely things. I blinked. Her pantry shop. Oh, yes, on the Westbrook Marketplace. Sloane's curated pantry. She resells all those high-end promotional items. You know, the buy one, get one free things from the expensive grocers. Smart. Really. She finds people who just want one and sells the extra at almost full price. She said she gets too many samples and gifts and just hates waste. Gifts. My cheap food. My cases of ramen. My strawberry jam. I went home. My hands were steady now. The ache in my wrist felt distant. I sat down at my old desktop computer, the one I use for the senior center accounts. I opened the Westbrook Marketplace. It took me 3 minutes to find it. Sloane's curated pantry. The photos were beautiful, minimalist, clean. And in the background of a photo advertising artisanal organic honey, I saw the corner of a familiar label from a brand of bacon, my brand. I opened my bank statements online. I looked at the small, recurring Instacart fees on the credit card I had, foolishly added them to for emergencies. The pattern was sickeningly clear. The weeks after I delivered my groceries, their fees dropped to near zero. The weeks I didn't, the charges were high. $70, $120. I was not helping. I was funding. I was the stock manager for her resale business. I right-clicked. I created a new folder on my desktop. I saved the screenshots of the marketplace listings. I scanned and saved the text message about allergies. I scanned the original grocery receipt from my shelf. I titled the folder, Simple and Clean. Just like an invoice? Groceries proof. The long hours at the senior center finally broke me. I woke up on a Wednesday feeling like I'd been packed in ice. My bones ached, and my throat was raw. I'd pulled 3 double shifts in 10 days, trying to patch the hole in my budget, the hole I'd created buying groceries for a house with a locked pantry. I shuffled to my kitchen, my stocking feet whispering on the linoleum. I just needed some tea, maybe some toast. Something simple. I opened the refrigerator. The white light illuminated the half-empty jar of pickles and the last splash of milk. I opened the pantry. There was a box of saltines with only the crumbs remaining, and the hard, dry heel of a loaf of bread. My stomach twisted, a bitter, hungry knot. I had given them everything. I had given them my time, my savings, the food from my own mouth. And I was sick, and I was hungry, and I was alone. My phone buzzed on the counter, the vibration loud in the silence. It was the family group chat, a new message from Sloane. Just back from Pilates and feeling so clean, it read. It's amazing how your body thanks you when you stop putting toxins in it. Eat clean, stay clean. Your lifestyle choices are your best defense. I read the message twice. It was not a get well soon. It was an accusation. My sickness, my exhaustion, was a moral failure, a lifestyle choice. I couldn't text. I called Caleb. I hated the weak, reedy sound of my own voice. Caleb, I rasped. Honey, I'm not feeling well. The flu, I think. And I don't have any food in the house. A long, impatient sigh. Oh, Mum, that's terrible. I'm just buried. We're in back-to-back meetings. Look, I'll send something over. Caleb, I'll handle it. Mum, gotta run. He hung up. An hour later, my doorbell rang. I dragged myself to the door, expecting him. It was a delivery driver, a kid in a red polo shirt holding a single, small envelope. I took it, confused. Inside was a plastic gift card for the grocery store. $25. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb. Hope this helps get better soon. Sloane and I are heading out for a bit. Me too, Lone. Take care of yourself. I stared at the plastic card. $25. I was too sick to walk to the store, too weak to stand. And he sent me a task. He sent me a transaction. The emptiness of the gesture, the cold, efficient dismissal, hurt more than the hunger. I sat at my kitchen table, the fever and a new, colder feeling warring inside me. I opened my phone. Sloane had just posted a new video. It was a tour of her main refrigerator, the one in the kitchen. So many of you ask how I keep things so minimalist and organized. She chirped into the camera. It panned over pristine glass shelves, a few jars of expensive kombucha, a bowl of green apples, a carton of eggs, certainly not my store brand, sitting in a ceramic holder. The secret, she whispered, is only keeping what is beautiful and essential. I watched it 3 times, the refrigerator she showed the world, and I thought of the packed, humming prop fridge in the garage. I thought of the padlocked pantry. She was hiding my food, my cheap, toxic, ugly food to preserve her minimalist lie, to maintain her beautiful, essential facade. The fever broke. It vanished. And in its place, a sharp, icy clarity settled in my veins. The hurt was gone. The sadness was gone. All that remained was the accountant. I walked to my desk. I turned on my computer and my printer. I opened the groceries proof folder. Then I opened my online bank statements, going back to January 1st. I printed every grocery store transaction, every Instacart fee, every emergency I had covered. I pulled the stack of paper from the printer. I sat down with my ledger pad, my calculator, and a black pen. I cross-referenced the dates on my receipts with the screenshots of her curated pantry marketplace listings. I added the cost of the bacon she photographed. I added the cost of the milk she hid. I added every can, every box, every jar. The work was methodical. It was precise. It took 2 hours. When I finished, I triple-checked the math. I stared at the final number at the bottom of the page. It was in the thousands. It was not help. It was not a few things. It was systematic, calculated theft. It was the price of my own son's comfort. A question, sharp as a boning knife, cut through me if kindness is taken, repackaged, and sold to maintain an image. Is it still kindness? Or is it just inventory I was done negotiating? I was done begging to be seen. I would not ask Caleb to understand. I would not confront Sloane with tears. I would conduct an audit. The plan formed, clear and cold and final. It would be legal. It would be quiet. It would be irrefutable. I, Loretta Vaughan, was going to draft a receipt that she could never, ever forget. My fever was gone, but the clarity remained, sharp and cold. I was no longer a grieving mother or a confused old woman. I was an auditor, and this was an inventory discrepancy. My first stop was my own computer. I logged into my supermarket's loyalty account. It had been 35 years of habit, swiping that little plastic card, and now it was my ledger. The website was a perfect, objective record of my life, every gallon of milk, every loaf of bread, every single purchase, time-stamped and categorized. I opened the groceries proof folder in a separate window. On one side, Sloane's social media post, time-stamped 9:30 a.m. On the other, my digital receipt from the supermarket, showing I had checked out at 7:45 a.m. the same day. I cross-referenced. Item store brand thick-cut bacon, purchased 7:48 a.m. Appeared on Sloane's brunch board, 9:30 a.m. Item 1 dozen organic eggs, grade A, purchased 7:49 a.m. Appeared on Sloane's brunch board, 9:30 a.m. Item glass jar strawberry preserves, purchased 7:49 a.m. Appeared on Sloane's brunch board, 9:30 a.m. It was a perfect, unbroken chain of custody. My next stop was the supermarket itself. I needed one more piece of physical evidence. The store was quiet, the mid-morning lull. I found the checkout lane I always used, the one with the shortest line. The cashier, a young woman with a bright, weary face and a name tag that read Maribel, was scanning items with robotic efficiency. I waited until she had no cue. "Excuse me, Maribel," I said, holding up one of my original paper receipts. "I'm an accountant, just auditing some expenses. Can you confirm for me? Is this the standard printout format for your registers?" She looked at me, then at the receipt. "Yeah, that's ours. The thermal paper, the store logo at the top, the loyalty number at the bottom. That's it." "Why?" "Just checking the details," I said, smiling warmly. "My eyesight isn't what it used to be. Thank you, dear. You've been a great help." I folded the receipt and put it back in my purse. Maribel confirms standard receipt format. One more fact for the file. When I got home, I created a new document. I inserted a table, just like I used to do for the school district. It had 3 columns. Column 1, item purchased by L. Vaughan. Column 2, item appearance in Sloane Mercer's home social media. Column 3, date, time discrepancy. I filled it out, line by line. Bacon, eggs, milk, butter, pasta, canned beans, vegetable oil. I was methodical. I was precise. I felt no anger. I felt only the cold, satisfying click of numbers falling into place. Then, I calculated the damages. I pulled up the supermarket's return policy. Items, unopened and with receipt, were eligible for a full refund. Items that had been opened, used, or resold on the curated pantry were a total loss. I created a summary page, total cost of goods provided, less value of returnable goods unopened, equals net financial loss, incurred. I added a line item for service fee, then deleted it. This was not about profit. This was about the principle. I downloaded the last 6 months of my bank statements. I highlighted every Instacart charge on their account, every grocery run on mine. I saved them as appendices. The final piece was the garage. I needed to document the scene of the crime. I waited until Thursday, when I knew they were both at their offices. I drove to their house. My hand didn't even tremble as I put my key in their lock. The house was cold and silent. I walked straight through the laundry room and into the garage. The white prop fridge hummed in the corner, still draped in its white cloth. I pulled it back, and there it was, my evidence, the gallon of milk I had marked 2 weeks ago. I knelt, my knees cracking on the concrete. I turned the jug. My original marking LV Breyer Hollow 27 was still there, faint but undeniable, on the bottom rim, the spot she had missed. I took out my phone. I didn't just take one picture. I took 20. I photographed the milk jug with my marking. I photographed the scarred plastic of the scrubbed clean butter tub. I photographed the rows of my store brand cans, stacked like inventory in a warehouse. I took a short video, panning slowly from the hidden fridge to the locked pantry door just inside the house. I went home. I uploaded everything to my computer. I saved the photos, the video, the spreadsheets, and my itemized summary into one single file. I labeled it Receipt, Sloane Mercer, PDF. I dragged the file onto a new, clean USB drive. The little light on the drive blinked, confirming the data transfer. It was done. All the facts were present. All the numbers balanced. With the final PDF saved to the USB drive, the audit phase was complete. The retribution phase would be strategic. I am not a screaming woman. I have never been. My anger is not hot, it is meticulous. I would not be posting on social media. I would not be calling relatives to cry and tattle. A public fight is messy, and Sloane thrives on appearances. I would give her none of that. My first call was not to Caleb. It was to the Willow and Pine Women's Shelter, downtown. I spoke to a very kind woman named Maria. "Maria," I said, my voice clear and professional. "My name is Loretta Vaughn. I'd like to make a donation of non-perishable groceries. I have several cases of pasta, canned goods, and oils, about $75 worth." This was the exact value of the pantry items I had planned to buy for Sloane on my next trip. Instead, I went to the store, bought them, and drove them straight to the shelter. I watched them unload the bags. It was the first time in months I felt like my efforts were actually feeding someone, not just an aesthetic. My second stop was the supermarket, but this time I went to the customer service desk. I had 3 unopened, still sealed packages of bacon and a block of cheese in a cooler bag. They were from my last gift run, items I'd found still hidden in the garage fridge, untouched. "I'd like to return these, please," I said. "Here is my receipt." The clerk scanned them. "No problem." The money was credited back to my card. I kept the new, crisp receipt that showed the refund. Back at my desk, I began the assembly. I printed the Receipt Sloane Mercer PDF in full color. The photos of the garage fridge, with my pen markings visible, were sharp and damning. The 3-column spreadsheet was cold and objective. I created a cover page in large, bold, 28-point font. It read, "Invoice cost of goods converted." Below that, the final, terrifying number I had calculated. Behind this, I placed, in order 1, the summary spreadsheet of all items, dates, and costs. 2, my original supermarket receipts. 3, the refund receipt for the returned bacon. 4, a copy of the donation receipt from the Willow and Pine Shelter. I had asked them to make it out to me, but I took my black pen and wrote clearly at the bottom, "Donated in honor of Sloane Mercer." 5, the screenshots of her curated pantry marketplace listings. 6, the printout of the allergies group text. Finally, I typed a single, separate letter. It was not emotional. It was a list of terms. To Sloane Mercer. The enclosed documents outline a significant financial and personal discrepancy. To consider this matter closed, the following actions are required. A full, verbal apology delivered to me in the presence of Caleb. 2, full reimbursement for the net financial loss incurred. As detailed on the invoice cover sheet, this is the total cost of goods minus the items I was able to return. 3, the immediate cessation of all resale activities involving items gifted by me. 4, the immediate cessation of the gaslighting behavior concerning my memory and contributions. You have until 5 p.m. this Saturday to comply. And then, the final sentence, the one I wrote for the accountant, for the stock manager, for Loretta Vaughn. Should you choose not to comply, this complete file, including the USB drive with all digital evidence, will be forwarded for review to the Briar Hollow Homeowners Association, your employer's Human Resources Department, and my attorney. I slid every paper into a heavy-duty, clear plastic file protector. I placed the small black USB drive on top. I sealed the flap. I took a label from my desk drawer and wrote on it, in my clearest, steadiest hand, "Receipt you won't forget." My hand was not shaking. I picked up my phone. I sent a text, not to the group chat, but to Sloane directly. "Sloane, I picked up some fresh vegetables from the farmer's market. I'll drop them by Saturday morning around 10, if you're home. Her reply was almost immediate. Fine. Saturday morning arrived. The air was crisp and bright. I walked up the pathway to their house at exactly 10 o'clock, holding two things, the clear file labelled "Receipt You Won't Forget" and a small paper bag. I didn't even have to ring the bell. The front door was slightly ajar. I could hear music, the kind without a tune, all atmosphere and light percussion. And I heard Sloane's voice, high and bright, directing someone. I pushed the door open. Sloane was in the dining area, which flowed into the kitchen. She was dressed in white linen. Two other women, her girlfriends, were with her. One arranging flowers, the other setting out plates. A perfect brunch was being assembled. "Loretta!" Sloane called out, her voice tight with the performance of hospitality. She didn't look up from a stack of porcelain dishes. "Just put them on the counter." "Thank you, dear," I said, my voice calm. I walked into the kitchen. The paper bag in my hand was light. The clear file was heavy. "I just brought these from the market. I need to put them in the refrigerator to keep them cool, if that's all right." Sloane finally looked at me, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. "In the main fridge, Loretta. I'm in the middle of a setup." "It will only take a second," I said, not asking, just stating. I walked past her, past the marble island covered in artfully placed croissants, to the gleaming, stainless steel, double-door refrigerator. Her hand shot out, but she stopped herself. Her friends were watching. Fine. Just be quick. And use the bottom drawer, please." I pulled the handle. The door opened with a heavy, silent swing. The inside was exactly as it had been in her video. It was a cathedral of white space, a few bottles of sparkling water, a bowl of lemons, a ceramic egg holder with 6 brown eggs. It was not a refrigerator. It was a statement. It was a space scrubbed clean of any evidence of real life, of any evidence of me. It was designed to erase. Sloane had turned back to her plates, directing one of her friends. "No, the small forks go on the left. Jen." I did not go to the bottom drawer. I took the clear plastic file. I placed it, with a soft, definitive thud, directly on the center glass shelf, right next to the ceramic egg holder. The bold, black label faced out. Invoice cost of goods converted. The total, a stark, 4-figure number, was impossible to miss. Then, I reached into the small paper bag I'd brought. I took out a single, bright yellow lemon. It was small, slightly scarred, and imperfect. I had grown it myself on the little tree on my patio. I placed the lemon directly on top of the clear file. A small, real, imperfect seal on a case of perfect, sterile lies. I closed the refrigerator door. The click was loud in the sudden quiet of the music. "All set," I said cheerfully. Sloane didn't turn around. I walked back to the entryway. I paused at the edge of the dining room. "Sloane, I have to get going. Thank you for letting me stop by." "Okay, Loretta, thanks," she said, her back still to me. "Oh," I added, as if an afterthought. "I left the receipt for the vegetables in the fridge for you, dear. Make sure you look at it." I walked out. I did not run. I did not look back. I got in my car, parked one street over, and set a timer on my phone. I didn't even have to wait the full 15 minutes. My phone, which I had set to silent, lit up with a text from Ellie Monroe, my neighbor, who was out walking her dog. Is everything all right? Loretta, I just heard a shriek from Sloane's house. I could picture it perfectly. Sloane, kneading the sparkling water, opening the door, seeing the file, the title, the final, terrible number. Her hand, reaching for it, disbelieving, pulling it out, the lemon rolling off. I pictured her face as she saw the first page, the spreadsheet, the second, the photo of the garage fridge, the third, the picture of my marking. LV Briar Hollow 27 under a jug of milk, the curated brunch, the clean aesthetic, the perfect Saturday morning. All of it, shattered by the one thing she thought she had successfully erased. The truth. I didn't drive away. I simply parked my car around the corner, just out of sight, and waited. The engine was off. The timer on my phone was still counting down from 15 minutes when Caleb called. Not texted. Called. Mum, what did you do? Sloane is hysterical. You need to come back here. You've ruined her brunch. Her friends are... I'm not coming back. Caleb, I said. My voice was calm. It was the voice I used at the senior center. I left an invoice. I expect it to be reviewed. An invoice, Mom? What are you talking about? It's a stack of papers accusing her of stealing. You're slandering her. She says you've lost your mind. Slander is spoken, libel is written, and truth is a perfect defense for both. Caleb, tell Sloane I'll be back at 10:45 for her answer. Her answer to what, Mom? This is insane. Tell her to look at the photos of the garage refrigerator, the ones with my initials on the butter. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I hung up. I let 9 minutes pass. I reapplied my lipstick. At 10:45, I walked back up the pathway. The music was off. The front door was still open. I stepped inside. The scene was frozen. The two friends were standing awkwardly by the dining table, their coats in their hands, trying to pretend they weren't listening. Sloane was standing by the kitchen island, her face pale and blotchy, her white linen dress wrinkled where she'd been gripping it. The clear file was on the counter. Open. Caleb was in the middle of the room, his back to me, flipping through the pages. He was the one I needed to see. This is crazy, Sloane spat. Her voice was no longer high and curated. It was a low, ugly hiss. You came into my house and planted this filth to embarrass me. This is slander. Is it? I asked. Walking calmly toward the island, I pointed to the colour photograph I had placed on top. The one of the garage fridge. Look at the butter tub. Sloane. The one you scrubbed. You missed a spot. Is that my initial? Or yours? Caleb flinched. He looked closer at the photo. One of her friends, the one named Jen, was looking over his shoulder. She was reading the spreadsheet. I heard her whisper to the other. Oh my God. She made a donation to a shelter in Sloane's name. That's savage. The atmosphere in the room, once so light and airy, had curdled. It was thick with shame. Not mine. I was just organizing. Sloane tried, her voice rising to a shriek. I was keeping things tidy. You bring all this clutter. Is that what you call it on the Westbrook marketplace? I asked, my voice level. Clutter. I tapped the next page in the file, the screenshot of Sloane's curated pantry with my store-brand bacon in the background. Because that listing calls it artisanal goods. The two friends started backing toward the door. Sloane, I think we should go. One of them mumbled. Caleb, I said, speaking directly to my son. He finally turned to look at me, his face ashen. He was holding the printout of my bank statement, the one showing the Instacart fees. He was comparing it to my grocery receipts. He was seeing the pattern. The accountant's son was finally doing the math. "Mum," he whispered, "your grocery runs. They're on the same days the Instacart charges stop. She's a stock manager. Caleb. She knows when inventory is full." "This is about my aesthetic," Sloane yelled, finally dropping all pretense. "It's my house, and I have a right to my own aesthetic. I will not have it ruined by store brands. Your aesthetic is not a justification for theft." "Sloane," I said. I looked at her, really looked at her. "Your aesthetic is not an excuse to repackage my help and sell it. Your aesthetic is not a reason to gaslight me and tell my son I'm forgetful. My name is Loretta Vaughan. I know what I buy." I turned to Caleb. "The terms are in the file. A full apology, in front of you, and full reimbursement for the items she used, hid or sold, the items I could not return." "This is blackmail," Sloane whispered. "No," I said, picking up the file and tapping it square against the counter. "This is an invoice. The bill is due." I looked at Caleb. I looked at the woman he had married, and I walked out the door, for the second time. I paused on the doorstep and turned back just enough for them to hear me. "You have until 5 o'clock this afternoon to decide how you're going to pay it." I didn't go home. I went to Ellie Monroe's house. She was, as I expected, on her front porch, pretending to read the paper, but watching everything. "Loretta?" she said, her eyes bright. "Quite the commotion over at your son's place. Those young women left in a real hurry. Ellie, you have that little security camera on your garage, don't you? The one that faces their driveway. Catches everything," she said with a satisfied smile. "Would you do me a favor and check the footage from yesterday around 4 p.m? I think I left a package on their porch and wanted to see if they got it." She was back in 10 minutes. Well, I didn't see a package, Loretta, but I saw Sloane, plain as day, loading 2 big tote bags into her car from the garage. Looked like she was shipping things. Funny. I thought she worked in marketing. "Would you be a dear and send me that little clip, Ellie, just for my records?" "Already done." She smiled. I went home. I made a cup of tea. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone buzzed. A private text from Sloane, not the group chat. "Loretta, this is absurd. What you did was humiliating and uncalled for. I'm willing to discuss this, but privately. What do you really want?" I didn't reply with words. I attached the video file Ellie had sent me, the one with the perfect timestamp, showing her loading my gifts into her car, presumably for a run to the post office for her curated pantry. My phone was silent for 37 minutes. Then, a knock. Not a text. A knock. It was Caleb. He was alone, and he looked like he hadn't slept in a week. He didn't look at me when I opened the door. "Mom," he said, his voice thick. "Can I come in?" I didn't say anything, just stepped aside. He sat on my sofa, the one he'd grown up on, and put his head in his hands. "She told me," he said, his voice muffled. "She said you were just getting confused, that you brought too much stuff, and she was just storing it to keep things tidy, to protect your feelings." "And you believed her?" I said. It was not a question. He looked up, and I saw the boy I'd raised, lost and ashamed. "Mum?" I heard her. On the phone with her friends. A few weeks ago, I was in the other room. She was laughing. His voice cracked. She said, "It's fine. His mom is the new delivery service. I just have to hide the ugly boxes before Caleb sees them." She said I was too weak to manage my own mother, and that she was handling it, that she was protecting our aesthetic. Aesthetic. That sterile, empty word. She was protecting her side business, I said. I walked to my desk, picked up the USB drive, and plugged it into my computer. I opened the file. She wasn't storing it. Caleb? She was selling it. I turned the monitor toward him. I showed him the spreadsheet. I showed him the marketplace screenshots. I showed him the video of my markings inside his own garage. He watched, silent, his face draining of all color. And then, the first twist. I showed him my credit card statement, side by side with my grocery loyalty account. "Remember that $25 gift card you sent me when I was sick?" He nodded, his eyes full of shame. "Sloan used it," I said. "She used it to return some of the items I had bought. But she's not very good with details. You're Sloan. She didn't realize that when she returned items bought under my loyalty number. The store's policy is to refund to the original payment method, not the gift card." I pointed to the screen. "There it is. A refund for $9.99 and another for $4.50. It all came back to my card. She didn't even get the money. She just proved my case." And the second twist. "Look at this," I said, pointing to my master spreadsheet. "This is the total cost of all the decor for that brunch. The little ceramic plates, the linen napkins, the marble board. I found them all on her social media, all tagged. And this is the total amount of my groceries that disappeared in the last 2 months. They're almost identical. Caleb, down to the dollar." He made a small, strangled sound. "She wasn't just hiding my food to protect your aesthetic. Honey, she was converting my help into her hobby. She was taking the food out of my mouth to put a pretty picture on her timeline." Caleb finally, fully, broke. He wasn't a man in a nice suit. He was a little boy, crying in his mother's living room. He understood. He understood that Sloane's care was just a beautiful, empty box, and that she had been systematically, efficiently, erasing me from his life, one receipt at a time. "Mum, I am so sorry." He wept. "I'll fix it. I'll pay you back. I'll make her. We can fix this." I was his mother. I wanted to hold him. I wanted to tell him it was all right. But I was also Loretta Vaughn. I looked at the wall clock. It was 3:30. "There is no we, Caleb," I said, my voice quiet, but hard. "There is no cheap, easy reconciliation here. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is a boundary." I pointed to the clock. "The invoice is on your kitchen counter. The terms are clear. Payment is due at 5 p.m. At 4:55 in the afternoon, I walked back into their kitchen. The deadline was 5 p.m. They were waiting. The stage was set, but the actors had changed. The fake brunch was gone. The bright, performative energy of the morning had collapsed into a thick, grey silence. They were standing near the refrigerator, the stainless steel appliance now looming over us like a silent, cold witness. Sloane held a single sheet of paper. Caleb stood beside her, his shoulders slumped, his face pale. He looked older than he had that morning. You're here? Caleb said. It was a flat statement, not a welcome. The bill is due? I answered. Sloane would not look at me. She stared at the paper in her hand. Her knuckles were white. Loretta, she began, her voice a dry, thin rasp. She was reading. I apologize. She paused, taking a shaky breath. I acknowledge that I knowingly, concealed the groceries you provided. I acknowledge that I photographed them for my social media after claiming they were missing. I acknowledge that I sold items that you gifted to us on the marketplace. She looked up, her eyes bright with a new, furious humidity. And I read it all. Sloane, Caleb said, his voice dead. She looked back down, biting her lip. I acknowledge that I gaslit you. I told Caleb you were forgetful and confused to cover what I was doing. It was a lie. I am sorry. As she finished speaking, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not look at it. Caleb held his phone up, the screen facing me. It was his banking app, a completed transfer for the full amount on my invoice. The memo line was stark, for everything I should have seen. The money was back. The account was settled. I reached into my bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper. It was not an invoice. It was the receipt from the Willow and Pine Women's Shelter. I walked past them, past the marble island, and placed it on the counter, right where her perfect brunch platter had been. I made a donation in your name. Sloane. The food I bought this week went there. The women at that shelter ate a real meal today, in place of this fake one. Sloane flinched, as if I had struck her. I'll stop, she whispered, the apology page crumpling in her fist. I'll take the shop down. I won't. I promise. I'll stop. I looked at her, then at my son, who watched her with empty eyes. Promise him, I said. Not me. I walked to the refrigerator. I opened the door. The cold, sterile air washed over my face. I reached inside and retrieved the clear file. I removed the spreadsheet, the screenshots, the photos of the garage. I removed the USB drive. I left only one single page, the cover sheet, the one that read invoice and showed the final, bold number. I placed that single page back on the center shelf, right next to the ceramic egg holder. A permanent reminder, a scar on her aesthetic. I closed the door. I turned to Sloane. She was watching me, her face a mask of pale, stunned hatred. Good. Hatred was honest. It was better than her dismissive, curated smile. Beauty, I said, my voice very low and very clear, is when a refrigerator has real food in it. Sloane. Not when the mother-in-law disappears. I turned and walked away. I walked through their silent, perfect living room. I reached the front door. Mum. Caleb's voice, desperate. I stopped. My hand on the doorknob. I did not turn around. I would not let him see my face. From now on? Caleb? I said, speaking to the empty, beige entryway. You pay for your own family's meals. I opened the door, stepped out, and pulled it closed behind me. The click of the latch was definitive. The account was balanced. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. I'm curious. Where in the world are you listening from? Please let me know in the comments. I love to see where our family is. Share your thoughts, subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary, and please like the video. If this story touched you, support us by hitting that hype button. It really helps these stories get heard by more people who need them.